You are drinking a glass of water. The water is clear, there is no strange smell, no mud, no insects floating on the surface. And you drink it almost without thinking. But you leave that glass of water overnight. The water is still clear. Nothing seems to have changed, yet you pour it away. But now, let's go back thousands of years. There were no faucets, no water treatment plants, no chlorine, no filters, no bacterial testing, and certainly no way to know how many parasites were hiding in the stream ahead. So how did humans survive? The simplest answer is they did not survive by drinking whatever water they found. They had to learn how to choose water. Imagine you are traveling with a group of people through a dry landscape. You have been walking for hours under the sun. Your throat is painfully dry. And finally you see water, but it is not a crystal clear stream. It is a shallow pool between rocks. There are deer tracks around it. There are insects. There is mud. And you have no idea what might have died in it a few days ago. Would you drink it? Modern humans might look for another source. But for ancient humans, sometimes the terrible water in front of them was still better than having no water. They did not know whether it contained bacteria or parasites. They could not see things so tiny that the naked eye was completely helpless against them. They only knew one simple thing. Drinking water meant staying alive. But their stomachs were not magical. Their immune systems were not an impenetrable suit of armor either. Ancient people still got sick. Evidence of parasitic infections has also been found in many ancient populations through archaeological evidence and paleoparasitological research. These traces show that diseases caused by parasites were not a problem that appeared only in modern societies. And this is where something very important began to happen. Humans began to learn from experience. If a water source repeatedly made the people who drank from it sick, that source gradually became something to avoid. If another stream usually kept the group healthier, it became the preferred source. No one needed to understand what bacteria were to learn this. You only needed to see the consequences. Over generations, such experiences could become shared knowledge: which water to drink, which water to avoid, which seasons the water sources dried up, and where water could be found after rain. And they could not simply stop drinking water, because the human body depended on it too much. The average adult human body is about 60% water, and water is involved in almost every basic function: transporting nutrients, regulating temperature, supporting circulation, removing waste, and lubricating the joints. Therefore, for a group of people on the move, water was not something they could look for after taking care of food. Water usually had to be considered first. They had to know where they would drink the next day. And if they found a water source that seemed reliable, they had a reason to return. It could be a stream, a river, rainwater collected between rocks, or a place where groundwater was close to the surface. Flowing water could often be preferred over stagnant water. A stream flowing from a rocky crevice could have less contact with animal waste than a pool where dozens of animals came to drink. But that did not mean clear water was always safe. It was only a clue. Color, smell, taste, temperature, location, and what was happening around the water source could all help humans make better choices. And when they began depending on certain water sources, something very important appeared: a memory of the landscape. One person knew which stream still had water at the end of the dry season. Another remembered the location of a rock hollow that collected rainwater. Someone else knew where they could dig down into damp soil to find water. This knowledge did not need paper. It was passed on through speech, by leading others to the exact place, and through repeated journeys across the land. In a very simple sense, they were creating a map of water in their minds. But then humans began staying in one place for longer. They built houses, they grew plants, they raised animals. And when many people began living around the same water source, the problem began to change. The water source did not only need to be found, it needed to be protected. Because water could become contaminated by human and animal waste, a water source that had once been considered safe could become dangerous as the surrounding environment changed. And that was when one of the simplest solutions appeared: the well. Instead of waiting for water to appear on the surface, humans dug down to find groundwater. In eastern Germany, archaeologists discovered wooden wells from the Neolithic period dating to approximately 5,469 to 5,098 before Christ. These structures were made from oak timbers that had been carefully worked and precisely joined together. showing the remarkable construction skills of humans around 7,000 years ago. But the most important thing was not how beautifully they built the wells. It was that they realized water did not necessarily have to be found on the surface. It could be underneath, and a water source taken from underground could have less direct contact with animals and surface dirt. But wells were not magic either. Groundwater could still become contaminated. Clear water could still contain things invisible to the naked eye. And eventually, humans began looking for another way: heating water. We even have some interesting archaeological evidence for this. At Shuidonggou in northern China, archaeologists discovered a large number of cracked stones in an ash layer dating back around 11,000 to 12,000 years. Experiments showed that these stones could have been heated and then dropped into water, causing them to crack, a technique consistent with heating water or liquids using hot stones. But we still have to be careful. This discovery shows that humans had the ability to heat water. It does not prove that they understood bacteria and heated water for the purpose of disinfection. They may have heated water to cook food. They may have processed plants. They may have softened food. Or the fact that heated water was safer may simply have been a benefit they discovered through experience. And then a real turning point happened. Humans discovered that there were things in water that could not be seen with the naked eye. In 1674, Antonie van Leeuwenhoek observed lake water through a microscope and saw tiny organisms that he called little creatures. By 1676, he continued observing rainwater, well water, canal water, and many other types of water, describing organisms that were completely invisible to the naked eye. This was a huge change. For the first time, humans were not only saying, "This water looks dirty." They began to realize, even water that looks clean can contain an entire world inside it. And from this point on, water purification gradually shifted from experience to science. Humans began experimenting with sand, charcoal, gravel, and other materials. By 1804, John Gibb had built an experimental slow sand filter in Paisley, Scotland. In 1829, James Simpson designed a sand filtration system for Chelsea Waterworks in London, bringing filtered water to the community. But water filtration was still not the perfect answer, because filtration could remove a great deal of sediment and some organisms, but not everything disappeared. And then humans began to understand more clearly the connection between water and disease. In 1854, a cholera outbreak occurred in London. Physician John Snow mapped the deaths and noticed that many sick people lived near or used water from the Broad Street pump. He convinced authorities to remove the handle of the pump. The number of cases then declined. What was remarkable was that Snow did this before the cholera-causing bacterium had been identified. By tracking where sick people lived and which water source they used, he was able to see a connection that the naked eye could not see. And finally, humans did not only filter water, they began disinfecting it. In 1908, Jersey City became the first city in the United States to routinely disinfect its public drinking water with chlorine. In the years that followed, water treatment and disinfection expanded, along with a major decline in diseases such as typhoid. Today, the water you drink can go through many stages before reaching the faucet. Water is collected from a source. The dirty particles are made to clump together. They are allowed to settle. The water is filtered through materials such as sand, gravel, or charcoal. Then it is disinfected with chlorine, chloramine, ultraviolet light, or other methods depending on the system. And that is why the glass of water in front of you looks so simple. You only see a glass, but inside it are thousands of years of humans learning not to completely trust what their eyes can see. Our ancestors began by finding a less dangerous water source. Then they remembered the water sources. They dug wells. They tried heating water. They tried filtering it. The microscope showed them an invisible world. Science helped them understand that water could transmit disease. And technology eventually turned water purification into a system that we almost never need to think about anymore. So the next time you pick up a clear glass of water and take a sip, try to think about this. The remarkable thing is not that humans once drank dirty water and still survived. The remarkable thing is that it took them thousands of years to realize that the most dangerous thing in water is sometimes the thing we cannot see. And if you want to know about another invisible thing that completely changed the way humans survive, watch the next video.